South Africa's response to U.S. tariffs. Trade challenges, opportunities, 2025. Alert. A single decision made in Washington could ripple through South Africa's farms, factories, and family dinner tables, and faster than many people think. From the desk of the President, Monday, 4th August, 2025. Dear fellow South African, the United States has just levied a 30% tariff on goods coming from our shores. On paper, it is a line in a customs schedule. In practice, it's a gust of cold wind hitting every grower, machinist, truck driver, and taxpayer whose livelihood is tied to exports. But here is where it gets controversial. Do we simply protest, or do we reinvent the way we trade with the world? Why this matters so much? The U.S. is our second-largest bilateral trading partner. A shock of this size touches revenue, employment, and ultimately, many of our shipments are not end products that compete head-on with U.S. brands. They are inputs that American industries rely on. Think of vehicle components assembled in Detroit, or citrus that fills supermarket shelves when Florida orchards lie fallow. A quick illustration for beginners. Picture a citrus farmer in Limpopo. The U.S. buys fruit during its own off-season because our harvest arrives 6 months earlier than California's. U.S. growers struggle with citrus greening disease and falling yields, so South African oranges help stabilize prices for American shoppers. A 30% surcharge could push those oranges off the market. South Africa's new trade strategy, targeting Africa and Asia. South Africa is embarking on an ambitious journey to tap into new markets across Africa and Asia as it grapples with the impact of potential 30% trade tariffs from the United States. President Cyril Ramaphosa made this announcement on Monday, highlighting the pressures that the looming tariffs pose to the country's economy, notably the possible loss of 100,000 jobs amid an already high unemployment rate exceeding 30%. Currently, the United States stands as South Africa's second-largest trade partner, making the looming tariffs a significant concern. The impending tariffs, set to be introduced on August 7th, represent the steepest rates imposed anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa, and come at a time when diplomatic relations between South Africa and the U.S. are strained over various domestic and international issues. Our top priority is to safeguard our exporting industries, stated Ramaphosa in his weekly newsletter. While we remain committed to discussions with the U.S. to retain market access for our products, we also recognize the urgent need to diversify our export markets. This means fostering stronger trade relationships within Africa itself. To mitigate the effects of these high tariffs, the South African government has proposed importing liquefied natural gas from the U.S. and incorporating certain U.S. agricultural goods into its market. Additionally, they plan to enhance investments in their mining and metals recycling sectors, as indicated by the Trade Ministry last week. The sectors most likely to suffer from these new tariffs are agriculture, automotive, and textiles. South Africa argues that these industries not only enhance domestic trade, but also bolster U.S. industry without posing a competitive threat. In response to this challenging situation, the government has initiated a support desk aimed at assisting exporters and producers in identifying and pursuing alternative markets beyond their current focus. This includes opportunities in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Furthermore, Ramaphosa reiterated the importance of progressing with plans for creating an African free trade area, which would enhance trade relationships within the continent. Last week, the U.S. announced the implementation of 15% tariffs on various exports from several sub-Saharan countries, including Lesotho, a small nation that heavily relies on its export economy and faced initial threats of even steeper 50% tariffs. This situation raises important questions. How will these new trade policies reshape the economic landscape for South African exporters? What strategies can be employed to strengthen resilience against international trade fluctuations? Your thoughts and insights in the comments could add valuable perspectives to this unfolding story.